Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما. Lesson number 22 will begin from ayah number 168. يا أيها الناس, O mankind, كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا. Eat from whatever is on the earth that is lawful and good. ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان. And do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Why? Because إنه لكم عدو مبين. He is to you a clear enemy. We see over here that all of mankind is being addressed. And the command is to eat. And an-nas over here, people over here, includes the believers, and it also includes the disbelievers. Now the question is, what is the relationship of this command with the previous verses? The previous verses that we learned, they discussed about how love for other things, or love for those things which take us away from obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a source of great regret and punishment in the hereafter. Anything that a person loves, anything at all, if it takes him away from obedience to Allah, then it is going to be against him on the Day of Judgment. It is not going to help him at all. Why? Because we see that love in this dunya, it requires a lot of sacrifice and devotion and dedication. The one whom you love, the one whom you like, you will work for them. You will serve them. You will sacrifice for them. And the people of Mecca, the Arabs, not just the people of Mecca, but the mushrikeen of Mecca, they used to love their idols. They loved their idols, because of which they would worship them. And also, they would not agree with the Prophet ﷺ because they loved their idols and they weren't willing to give them up. The differences between what the Prophet ﷺ taught and the ways of the mushrikeen, there were many. But the one thing that the mushrikeen could not accept was that the Prophet ﷺ told them, you should not worship the idols. They didn't disagree over, okay, zina is bad, drinking alcohol is bad, or speaking the truth is good. No, these differences, yes, they were there. They didn't agree with everything. But the main thing that they did not like what the Prophet ﷺ told them was that he told them that they should only worship one Allah. Which is why we learned in Surah Sad, ayah 5, the people of Mecca, they would say, أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. Has he made the gods only one God? We love our gods. We love these idols. We're not going to give them up at all. And in order to express their love and devotion to their gods, to their idols, they used to sacrifice animals for them. They used to sacrifice animals for the sake of the idols, to get the pleasure of the idols. So sometimes they would literally sacrifice the animals for the sake of the idols, and other times they would dedicate certain animals for the sake of the idols. And what that meant was that that animal was allowed to do anything that the animal wanted to. That animal could not be slaughtered, it could not be eaten, nobody could ride upon it. Why? Because that particular animal was devoted to a particular idol. Even in some places today, I've seen it myself, that certain animals, they're devoted, they've been dedicated to certain saints or certain places or certain pious people who used to live there before. And those animals, they create so much chaos, but people don't touch them. They don't say anything to them. They're not supposed to be slaughtered, they're not supposed to be consumed, they're not supposed to be milked, nothing at all. They're sacred. And this is exactly what the mushrikeen did as well. So the mushrikeen, they were criticized for having done so. In the following ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them that eat. Eat what? Eat of that which is lawful and good. These animals that I've given you, They're not to be sacrificed for the sake of your idols. They're not to be devoted for your idols, dedicated to your idols. No. They're your rizq, they're your provision. Eat them. Enjoy them. And other practices of the mushrikeen, they have also been criticized in the following verses. So over here we see, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, and an-nas includes all of the human beings. It includes the entire human race. Kulu, all of you eat. Kulu is from the root letters Hamza, Kaf, Lam. Akala. Akala, ya'kulu, to eat. And kulu, this is a command. It's an instruction. It's an amr. It's a command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to all people. What is that command? All of you should eat. What should you eat? Mimma, from that which. Mimma is a combination of min and ma. What should you eat? Mimma, of that which fil ardi, is in the earth. Over here, mimma fil ard has been understood in two ways. First of all, it has been said that min over here is explanatory. It is of bayan. So, mimma fil ard, meaning of all that is on the earth. And obviously, all that is on the earth refers to that which is edible, that which the human beings can consume. I mean, they're not being told over here, you should also eat rocks, and you should also eat pebbles, and you should also eat human beings. No. Obviously, what it means is that which is edible. All that is in the earth, meaning everything that is edible. Everything that is suitable for human consumption. Secondly, min over here has been understood as min of tab'id, giving the meaning of some of. So eat of what? Some of that which is on the earth. Meaning not everything, but some of. And what does it mean by some of? To your liking. What you like. What you prefer. So mimma fil ard. But there are two conditions. What are they? That the food must be halalan, it must be lawful, and it must also be tayyiban. It should also be clean and pure. Now the word halal is from the root letters ha, lam, lam. Ha, lam, lam. And as you know, halal is that which is lawful. Literally, hil means to open up something, to untie something. The word halla is to solve a problem. Okay. So halal is that which is open, meaning there is no restriction on it. You are allowed to consume it. You are allowed to use it. And remember that something is halal when it meets two conditions. The first condition is that it should be halal in and of itself. In and of itself, it should be something that is permissible to eat. For example, an apple, an orange. Similarly, animals that have been slaughtered in the proper way. Okay, they're what? Halal fi aynihi. Halal in and of itself. There is no problem in eating such things. Obviously, it does not include those animals that have not been slaughtered the proper way, or animals that are forbidden to eat. So this is the first condition. And the second condition of something being halal is that it should be halal fi kasbihi. Meaning in the way that it was earned or in the way that it was acquired. For example, apples and oranges, they're completely halal. But if a person steals an apple, or he buys it with money that he acquired through interest, that apple is not going to be halal. It's not permissible for him to eat it. Why? Because he stole it. The way that he acquired it, the way that he earned it, that way is incorrect. So the apple itself is fine, but because you acquired it the wrong way, that's why it's not permissible for you to consume it. So halal has two conditions. So eat that which is halal, and also eat that which is tayyib. It's another condition. Tayyib is from the root letters ta, ya, ba, and inshallah we'll go into the detail of tayyib later on as well. But for now, tayyib, taba, is that which is clean, that which is pleasing, that which is agreeable. Clean in the physical sense and also in the intangible sense. In the intangible sense, for example, if there is a particular animal that was sacrificed for the sake of an idol or for the sake of a dead person, apparently it might be some meat that is very clean, but in the intangible sense it is not clean. because it has been dedicated to someone other than Allah. So clean both in the tangible and intangible sense. And tayyib also refers to that which is pleasing, that which is agreeable. And pleasing in the sense that it is good to look at, it smells good. In its taste, it is good. In its nutritional value, it's also good. It's not junk food. It's not just empty calories. So halalan tayyiba. Lawful, permissible, and it should also be pure, it should also be clean, it should also be pleasing. So over here we see that everyone has been commanded. And what is the command? The command is to eat. The command is to eat. Eat what? Everything that is on the earth, as long as it meets the requirements of halal and tayyib. Now remember that eating in some situations is wajib. It is fard. It is mandatory upon a person to eat in certain situations. For example, if a person does not eat, and because of his not eating, he would become seriously ill, or he would become extremely weak, or he would die in certain situations, then in such a situation, eating is a command. Eating is a must. It's an obligation on him. And in this situation, even if a person does not wish to eat, he should eat. Why? Because it is the command of Allah. Allah has made it wajib upon him. Not the doctor, not the family. Who has made it wajib upon him? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he should eat. Why? In obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if a person does not eat in this situation, this is an act of disobedience to Allah. So in certain situations, eating is wajib. It is mandatory. In other situations, eating is mustahab. It is preferred. For example, a person is hungry. Well, go and eat something. Don't be so cranky. Don't be so lethargic. Simply go eat something. So it is something that is preferred for a person. It is liked. He should eat. And in other situations, it is mubah. It is permissible. You're not hungry, but it is okay for you to eat candy or a chocolate bar or some chips. You like them, so it's mubah. It is permissible. And in other situations, it is haram. It is forbidden. Such as when a person is fasting, or in a situation where a person is being offered haram food. He's not going to say, oh, if I don't eat this food, this person who's offering it to me, they will mind. No. In that situation, eating that particular food is not lawful for you. Okay? So, the command that is being given over here to everyone is to eat. And depending on the situation, the ruling changes, meaning either it is fard, or it is mustahab, or it is mubah, or it is haram. And if we look over here, that this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, that He has created us, and He also wants us to benefit from those things that He has given us. He also wants us to benefit from those things that He has given us. Many times when it comes to religion, when it comes to being religious, what do people think? Leave dunya? Leave eating, drinking? Leave good food? Eat dry bread with food that is bland? That's what they think being religious is. It's not. Obeying, over here the command is to eat. And if a person eats, what is he doing? He's obeying Allah. And what is that bringing him? Reward. That's bringing him reward. So the simple act of eating becomes a reward. But what should people eat? That which is halal and that which is tayyib. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا. And do not follow. Meaning, O you people, do not follow. تَتَّبِعُوا is from ittiba' tabain. So do not follow the khutuwat al-shaytan, the footsteps of shaytan. Khutuwat is the plural of khutwa, from the root letters kha, ta, wa. Khutwatun. Khutwa. And khutwa is used for, literally it is the gap between two footsteps. Literally it is the gap that is between two footsteps. And then the plural form khutuwat is used for footsteps, it is used for steps. So do not follow the footsteps of who? The footsteps of a shaitan, of the shaitan. Now what does it mean by following the khutuwat of someone? Following the footsteps of someone. What does it mean by that? What it means is that a person follows another in his actions. A person follows another in his actions. Because ittiba' is to completely follow. And remember I told you it could be in the tangible sense, it could be in the intangible sense, it could be in statements, it could be in actions. Remember? So, following the khutuwat of someone means following them in their actions. For example, following the khutuwat of a camel is to go the exact same way that the camel went. That you follow the footprints of the camel that you see in the sand. So you go the exact same way that the camel went. So following the footsteps of someone is do the exact same things that they're doing. To follow them in their actions. Now the question is, what are the footsteps of shaitan? What are the khutuwat of shaitan? Khutuwat of shaitan are the actions that the shaitan commits. They are the actions that the shaitan commits. And they're those actions that he invites people to. He calls people to. The ways, the actions that he has adorned, he does them himself, and he also calls people to do the same. What is the way of shaitan? What are the actions of shaitan? What are some of the things that shaitan does or has done that we know of? The first thing that he did before that, disobedience. He didn't prostrate. Istakbara, arrogance. Lying. Ingratitude. Disobedience. Rebellion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to do something, and what did he do? He didn't do it. He disobeyed. He became arrogant. He did not submit to the command of Allah. He was ungrateful for all of the favors of Allah. And with regards to the matter of food, what does the shaitan do? He calls us to eating that which is haram, leaving that which is halal, eating that which is haram, or eating with the left hand. So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden is what? They are the khutuwat of shaitan. Because that is what shaitan does, and that is what shaitan invites us to. Whether it is disobedience, or arrogance, or lying, or eating that which is haram, anything at all that Allah has forbidden, what is that? Khutuwat al-shaytan. Footsteps of shaitan. And what is the loss in following shaitan? Allah tells us in Surah An-Nur, ayah 21, وَمَنْ يَتَّبِعْ خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَإِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. And whoever follows the footsteps of shaitan, indeed, he enjoins immorality and wrongdoing. What does shaitan command? Immorality and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Generally and specifically with regards to eating. With regards to eating. For example, what does shaitan do with regards to eating? What does he tell us to do? To eat that which is haram. And the first thing that shaitan did was what? That he made Adam a.s. eat that which was haram. In Jannah, everything was halal for Adam a.s. except for just one tree. The fruit of just one tree. And what did shaitan say to him? Eat this. And Adam a.s. ate. So shaitan invites us to eating that which is haram. He makes us forget there's so many other halal options. Everything is permissible. And he makes us look at that which is not permissible. Everything was halal in Jannah. What did he show to Adam? That one tree. That's what he called him to. Similarly, something that is halal, something that is permissible to eat, what do people do? They don't eat it. For example, people say, oh, I'm becoming a vegetarian and I don't eat meat, I don't drink milk. Because literally some people say that, we're not meant to eat meat or we're not meant to drink milk. Milk, cows that produce milk, that is supposed to fatten their calves and not us. I mean, milk was offered to the Prophet ﷺ when he went up to Mi'raj. How can you say that milk is not good for you. Biologically, we've been made such that we have teeth that can tear meat and that can chew vegetables. So biologically, we are able to eat both meat and vegetables. We are to drink milk. They're beneficial for us. Allah has made all of these things for us. مِمَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ, whatever that is on the earth, as long as it is halal and tayyib. Right? So what does shaitan do? Don't eat this, it's not good for you. Don't eat that, it's not good for you. Okay, one thing is, okay, yes, food is not good for you. It's not clean, it's dirty, it's filthy, it's rotten, it's spoiled, or it has a lot of chemicals in it. Okay, fine, don't eat that. But don't say that it is haram. Don't say that you should not eat it. Don't say that. Because this is the way of shaitan. Similarly, when it comes to eating, what does shaitan make us do? Either he makes us eat a lot, or very little. But what should we do? We should be moderate when it comes to eating. Similarly, after eating, what does shaitan make us do? Be ungrateful. You know, the food was okay. I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't that great. It's too bland, too dry, too spicy. We complain about it. Or sometimes, what do people do? They make fun of food. That is also the footsteps of shaitan. Making fun of food, or making fun of certain cuisines, or certain type of food, the way that certain people cook, or their food is just so bland, or their food just smells, or their food is just sticky. How can you eat it? Every culture, every family for that matter, has their own way of cooking, has their own taste. And we are no one to pass comments on food. The Prophet ﷺ never criticized any food that was presented to him. And he would eat it if he liked it, and if he did not like it, he would just leave it, without expressing any dislike for that particular food. And this is reported in Bukhari. He never criticized any food. He wouldn't eat it. And sometimes, at certain occasions, the companions would ask him that, is this food forbidden? And he would say, no, it's not forbidden. You can eat it, but I just don't like it for myself. It's not a personal preference. So, when it comes to eating, what does shaitan make us do? All of these things. Allah tells us, do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Why? Because إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Indeed, he is to you an open enemy. The word adu is from the root letters Ain Dal Waw. Ain Dal Waw. And adu is the opposite of Sadiq. Who is a Sadiq? A friend. So adu is an enemy. Or, it has been said that adu is the opposite of wali. Who is a wali? A guardian. Someone who protects you. And adu is the opposite of that. Doesn't protect you. Is not close to you. Doesn't want any good for you. It is said that an adu, an enemy, is one who is happy at the other's suffering. So when a person is suffering, the enemy, he is happy. And when the person is happy, the enemy is upset. This is who an adu is. Someone who is very, very insincere. Someone who does not want any good for you. If you enjoy good, he is sad. If you suffer, he is happy. This is an enemy. Who is shaitan? He is an enemy to you. And what kind of an enemy he is? He is mubin. Mubin is from the root letters bayanun. What does bayinat? What does it mean? Clear. Right? Yubayinu, clear. So mubin is that which is evident, that which is clear in itself. So what does it mean by that he is a mubin enemy to you? Meaning his enmity is evident. His enmity is clear. He has clearly manifested his enmity against you by saying that he will definitely misguide you. He will try his best to lead you astray. So because he is your enemy, therefore you must not follow him. Why? Because an enemy never wishes good for his foe. So in other words, anything that shaitan calls you to, it is not good for you. And notice how the word khutuwat is plural, it is footsteps. When you're walking, or when you're running, what happens? One footstep leads to another, which leads to another. And this is what happens. It begins from eating that which is haram. Or it begins from being ungrateful for the food that a person has. And then it leads to another sin, which leads to another sin, which leads to another sin. And the chain continues until a person has gone far off in misguidance. So, eating that which is halal is something very important. And this is one of the first things that shaitan tries to take us away from. He takes us to eating that which is haram. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. And if we follow him, we are going to suffer great loss. Allah tells us in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 119, وَمَنْ يَتَّخِذِ الشَّيْطَانَ وَلِيًّا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ خَسِرَ خُسْرَانًا مُبِينًا. And whoever takes shaitan as an ally instead of Allah has certainly sustained a clear loss. Anyone who is going to follow shaitan, he is going to suffer a clear loss. So what is the command that is being given over here in this ayah? Eat mimma fil ard. Everything that is on the earth. As long as it's suitable for your consumption. And what are the two conditions? It should be halal and it should be tayyib. It should be clean, it should be good. And what's the second thing that we're told over here? Do not follow shaitan. Do not follow the ways of shaitan. Now the question is, when it comes to deen, we think about things like wearing the hijab or praying salah or giving the zakat or things like that, isn't it? So how come over here we're being told to eat? I mean, what has eating got to do with our deen? What has eating got to do with our deen? Why does the deen interfere with regards to eating and drinking? What you eat gives you the energy to be able to do something, and we are supposed to obey Allah, to do ibadah. Exactly. What we eat affects us. All of you have heard, you are what you eat. And it's become very cliche, but it's very true. You are what you eat. What you eat, what you drink, affects you. Because eating and drinking is a major part of your life. You're here and you think, okay, what am I going to have for open my fast? And in the morning, what am I going to have? And when we're not fasting, okay, what am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? What am I going to cook when I go home? When the weekend comes, okay, I have to do grocery. When you're going home, on the way, like, okay, do I have to pick anything from the grocery store? Eating and drinking is a major part of the life of the human being. It's a major part. And whatever a person eats, it affects him. It affects his actions. Like, for example, if a person has eaten a lot, for example, what is he going to be like? How is he going to be? Lazy. He's not going to have the energy to move around. He's just going to want to sit on the couch and lie down. And sometimes, when you eat right before going to bed, what happens? You dream about weird things. You dream about weird things. It happens with some people. If they eat right before going to bed, they have the craziest dreams ever. And sometimes what happens is that all that food that we've eaten, our body needs the energy to process all that food. So all of the energy is going to what? To digest all that food. And as a result, what happens? The person doesn't have the energy to do some adhkar, or the energy to get up and pray. And sometimes when we have a very heavy iftar, what happens at Taraweeh time? We can't stand. The food is right up till here. Or we're burping and the food that we've eaten, the oily food that we've eaten is coming up to our mouths and the breath is not going away. Eating and drinking is a major part of our lives and it affects us every single day. And this is the mercy of Allah that Allah has guided us as to what to eat and what not to eat. So shaitan, what does he do? He commands us to eat that which is forbidden or commands us to eat that which is harmful, that which is not tayyib. And if a person follows the khutuwat of shaitan, shaitan is an enemy, he is going to suffer great loss. So what do we learn from this ayah? First of all, it's a great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has permitted everything for us that is on the earth, as long as it is halal and tayyib. It's a great mercy of Allah. Imagine if we were given a list that you're only allowed to eat this, this and this. Because the rule in Islam is that everything, when it comes to eating, that everything is halal unless otherwise stated. Unless if it is stated, haram. Everything is permissible unless it is stated, haram. And we know about the things that are haram to consume from the Quran and from the Sunnah as well. I mean, we have been clearly instructed. Also, we learn from here that we must not follow the way of shaitan And that includes matters related to eating, and this includes eating or drinking with the left hand. For example, there is a hadith that is mentioned in Sahih Muslim, لا يأكل أحدكم بشماله. None of you should eat with his left hand. ولا يشرب بشماله. And nor should he drink from his left hand. Why? فإن الشيطان يأكل بشماله ويشرب بشماله. Because shaitan, he eats and he drinks with his left. Remember, the khutuwat of someone is what? Doing exactly what they do. Shaitan eats and drinks with his left, and he commands us, he invites us also to do what? To eat from our left. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ. Indeed, he orders you with evil and immorality. Indeed, not but. إِنَّمَا, as you know, is a combination of inna and ma. Inna means indeed, and ma gives a meaning of hasr. Ma is for hasr. What does hasr mean? To limit, to constrict. So innama, meaning indeed, the fact is only this. The reality is only this. That shaitan, when he commands you, what is the only thing that he's commanding you to do? As-su' and fahsha. In other words, he's not commanding you to do anything that is good. He is only commanding you to do that which is su' and fahsha. The word su' is from the root letter sin, waw, hamza. The word sayyi'ah, sayyi'at is also from the same root. And su' is literally anything which makes a person sad. What is su'? Anything that makes a person sad. And su' is used for any suffering that a person experiences, whether it is with regards to the matters of the dunya, or it is with regards to the matters of the hereafter. Similarly, it could be something that a person suffers in his body, like physically, like a headache, for example. And it could be something that a person suffers in his heart, for example, some feeling, sadness, depression. It could be something that a person suffers in his wealth. So su' is anything that makes a person sad. That makes a person sad. And it could be anything that is related to the deen of the person, the dunya of the person, the body of a person, the wealth of a person, the spiritual aspect of a person. This is the literal meaning of the word su'. And the word su' is sometimes used for sins. Why? Because sins, what do they do? What do they do? They bring harm to us. In the dunya, as well as the akhirah. And in the dunya and the akhirah, sins, what do? They make a person feel sad. Sometimes you are very angry at someone and you vent out all your anger and you show that anger. Later on, how do you feel? What was I thinking? How could I ever say that? I shouldn't have done that. So in the dunya also, sins, they make us sad. And in the akhirah, obviously, they're going to make people sad. And the word su' in particular is used for minor sins. It is used for saghira sins, minor sins. So shaitan commands you to commit minor sins that make you sad in the dunya and also the akhirah. And what else does he command you with? Wal-fahsha, and the indecency. Fahsha is from the root letters fa, ha, shin. And fahsha is every action or statement that is beyond bounds, that is very excessive, that has exceeded all bounds. It's not acceptable to the deen, to the sharia, to the aql, meaning it has exceeded all bounds. It's not acceptable at all. And fahsha in particular is used for those sins that are of sexual nature. For example, it refers to zina, committing fornication, homosexuality. Similarly, it applies to foul words, foul language, that is fahsha. And fahsha is any action or any statement that when it is done or when it is even heard of, what does it do? People don't like to see it. People don't like to even listen about it. People don't like to even listen about it. For example, if someone is murdered, if someone is killed, That is what? Fahsha. You don't want to witness anyone being murdered, and you don't want to even hear how they were killed. But unfortunately today, people's hearts have become so hard that they will kill their own in public, and nobody will dare to stop. Nobody will dare to stop them from doing what they're doing. And they will make a whole video, and they will spread it, and people will watch it, they will tell other people about it. Their hearts have become so hard. Fahsha is an action that is not acceptable at all. It has exceeded bounds. Your mind cannot accept it. Your deen cannot accept it. Your logic cannot accept it. You cannot fathom it. You cannot comprehend it. You can just not take it. You can't hear about it. You can't see it being done. That is what fahsha is. And it is said that fahsha refers to major sins. Su refers to minor sins, and fahsha refers to major sins. And when su and fahsha are mentioned together, then what does it mean? That he commands you to do what? All types of bad deeds. All types of evil deeds. No matter how minor or how major they are. This is what shaitan commands us to do. So he does not command you to do that which is khayr, but he only orders you to commit sins. He only orders you to commit sins. And this, specifically to the context of eating, what happens? For example, su could refer to, minor sin could refer to, for example, if a person does not eat properly, or he eats too much, then what happens? It affects his behavior with other people. It affects his behavior with other people. Sometimes people become very cranky, very grouchy. Why? Because they haven't eaten properly. Or they've eaten too much. And what happens? They delay their salah, or they're rude to their parents. They disobey their parents. They shout at them. Just leave me alone. Let me do what I want to. Who are you to tell me? So it leads to minor sins. Similarly, with regards to eating, major sin is, for example, eating that which is haram. In the context, because su wal fahsha in the general sense, but in the context is of eating. So how does shaitan command us to do that which is fahsha, commit a major sin with regards to eating? Eating that which is not permissible. وَأَن تَقُولُوا, meaning, and he also commands you to say, عَلَى اللَّهِ, against Allah, meaning about Allah, مَا, that which لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, you do not know. In other words, he commands you to say about Allah something that you have no knowledge of. He commands you to ascribe statements to Allah without any knowledge. Now there are three possibilities of ascribing a statement to Allah. There are three possibilities of ascribing a statement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First is that a person ascribes to Allah a statement which Allah has in fact said. Which Allah has said. Which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated. So for example, we learn in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told all of mankind to eat that which is halal and tayyib. So this is a statement that Allah has said. Allah has stated. So a person, what does he do? He says to another, you should eat that which is halal, you should eat that which is tayyib. Why? Because Allah has said so. Is this correct? Yes, it is correct. Why? Because he is ascribing to Allah a statement that Allah has indeed said. And in some situations, it becomes mandatory upon a person to say these statements, to tell others about them, in certain situations. Because we learned earlier, and inshallah we will read again in the following verses, about the punishment or the sin of concealing knowledge, of concealing that which is beneficial for people. So if you have learned of a hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and other people need to know about that, it becomes mandatory on you to tell them of that command. So this is one way of ascribing a statement to Allah. Another way is that a person knowingly ascribes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a statement which Allah has not said, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not stated. So what does he do? He knowingly, deliberately ascribes to Allah a statement which Allah has not said. Or he says a statement that is contrary to the statement of Allah. And this is forbidden. For example, sometimes people say, oh, this type of food is halal, whereas it's not actually halal. And he says that deliberately, knowingly. And he says, oh, it's in the Quran. Just to make himself more worthy of being accepted, just to give more value to his statement, what does he do? He says, oh, it's in the Quran. Similarly, a person says, oh, this is unlawful, this is completely haram, whereas it's not actually haram. And he says, oh, it's in the Quran. So this is an action that is completely forbidden. A third possibility is that a person ascribes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a statement which he does not know if Allah has stated it or not. He is doubtful. He's not sure whether Allah really said it or not. And if a person does that, that is also haram. This is also forbidden. Because you're unsure. There is a probability of that statement being true, and there is a probability of that statement being false. So because there is a chance, therefore, it is forbidden. So we see that in Deen, we shouldn't just make up things. We shouldn't just guess. If we don't know, if we're doubtful, we should remain quiet. So over here we learn that Shaitan, he commands us to say about Allah or make statements, to fabricate statements and ascribe them to Allah. How? Without any knowledge. Without any knowledge. And this is something that is forbidden. And remember that these statements could be with regards to the commands of Allah. It could be with regards to the actions of Allah. It could be with regards to the names and attributes of Allah. So this is something that is forbidden. We should only speak when we're sure. Now in the days of ignorance, before Islam, in the Jahiliyyah, people made certain things, certain halal things haram, and they made certain haram things halal. And they would say, oh, we're doing it because Allah told us to. Or we're doing this because this is what pleases Allah. And they had absolutely no evidence for that. They had no proof for that. For example, we learn in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 28, Allah says, وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً قَالُوا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهَا آبَاءَنَا وَاللَّهُ أَمَرَنَا بِهَا. And when they commit an immorality, for example, the people of Jahiliyyah time, as we know that they had placed idols such as Isaf and Naila. Where? On Mount Safa and Marwa. Similarly, they would perform tawaf while being naked. And they would say, we found our forefathers doing it, and Allah has ordered us to do it. They would say, Allah has commanded us to do it. Therefore, we're doing it. What does Allah say? قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ أَتَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Say, indeed Allah does not order immorality. Allah never gives a command that is immoral, that is of fahsha. Do you say about Allah that which you do not know? So they would do certain things and they would say, Allah has commanded us to do them. Or they would make certain things haram and they would say, Allah has commanded us to do so. But the reality is that no one, even the Prophet ﷺ, has not been given the authority to make the haram halal or to make the halal haram. When the Prophet ﷺ made honey unlawful on himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala objected. He did not allow him to do so. As we learn in the Quran, it was revealed, لِمَ تُحَرِّمُ مَا أَحَلَّ اللَّهُ لَكَ. Why do you make unlawful what Allah has made lawful for you? We have not been given the permission to make the lawful unlawful or to make the unlawful lawful. In Surah Al-Nahl, ayah number 116, Allah says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَا تَصِفُ أَلْسِنَتُكُمُ الْكَذِبَ هَذَا حَلَالٌ وَهَذَا حَرَامٌ لِتَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ. And do not say about what your tongues assert of untruth, that this is lawful and this is unlawful. Don't say such things to invent falsehood about Allah. So with regards to the matter of eating as well, we have no authority to say, oh, this is halal, whereas it's not actually halal. Or this is haram, whereas it's not actually haram. It is shaitan who tells us that we should say about Allah something that we have no knowledge of. Something that is untrue. And many times, when it comes to eating, what do people do? When they want to eat haram, what will they do? They will say similar statements. And when it comes to leaving that which is halal, they will do similar things. They will say similar statements. So what lessons do we learn from this ayah? That we should not listen to shaitan because he commands us to that which is wrong, and also we should not speak without knowledge. We should not speak without knowledge. We should only say that which we are sure of. If we are not sure about something, what should we do? What should we do? We should stay silent. We should be quiet. We should say, I don't know, I'm sorry. In Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّيَ الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Say, my Lord has forbidden immoralities, what is apparent of them and what is concealed. And then there is a list of several things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. And at the end of the ayah, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and that you say about Allah that which you do not know. This is also forbidden. It is haram. We are not allowed to say about Allah that which we do not know. So easily, so quickly, we give fatwa. No, this is halal. Yeah, this is halal. No, this is haram. And our normal speech as well. Haram, haram. I mean, who are we to say that? Who are we to say that? We have no authority to make halal things haram and haram things halal. We should keep the religion of Allah as it is. Next ayah. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, and when it is said to them, said to who? When it is said to the disbelievers. Because remember the context specifically is of who? The mushrikeen of Mecca, the disbelievers. But we can also take many lessons from these verses for ourselves. So when it is said to them, what is said to them? اتَّبِعُوا, all of you should follow. What should you follow? مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ, that which Allah has sent down. Follow that which Allah has revealed. What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed? The Quran. And to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, certain other commands which we know as the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So follow that which Allah has revealed. So the Quran, the Sunnah, and what do the Quran and Sunnah teach us? What do they have? Certain commands and certain prohibitions, which include commands and prohibitions with regards to eating. So when they're told, follow what Allah has sent down, follow the Quran and Sunnah, follow the commands of Allah, stay away from those things that Allah has prohibited. And remember that ittiba' of this is done, meaning following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, is done in three ways. First of all, in aqidah, in belief. That a person believes that what Allah has sent down must be followed. Secondly, in qawl, in statement. That a person also says that what Allah has sent, what Allah has revealed, must be followed. And in fi'l. Ittiba' is also done through fi'l, that a person doesn't just believe and doesn't just say, but he actually follows the commands as well. He actually observes those commands as well. So when they're told, ittabi'u ma anzal Allah, follow in your aqidah, in your qawl, in your fi'l, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, what is their response? They say qalu, they say bal, rather. What does bal do? It negates. What is it negating over here? Ittabi'u ma anzal Allah. So they say, no, we're not going to follow what Allah has sent down. Instead, nattabi'u, we will follow ma, that which alfayna alayhi aba'ana, that which we found our forefathers on. The ways that we found our forefathers on. Alfayna is from the root letters lam, fa, waw. Lam, fa, waw. Lafwun. And lafwun is to find something by chance. You weren't looking for it. You weren't searching for it, but you just found it. Like sometimes you're going somewhere and you're walking and all of a sudden you find money on the floor. You weren't looking for it, but you just found it. Similarly, you're going somewhere. You weren't going in search of a particular person, but you just happened to find them there. So this is what lafwun is. And lafwun is also to find someone persistent and regular and consistent on a particular ritual or in a particular habit, a particular way, a particular act of worship. So it is to find someone very consistent on a particular act of worship. So we're only going to follow that way which we found our forefathers practicing. Now remember, the word Aba is a plural of Ab, and by fathers it means father, grandfather, uncles, and great-grandfathers and so on. So what they mean by their forefathers is their culture, their traditions, the things that they've always done. Does it sound familiar? Many times people say, well, this is just part of our tradition and culture. Our family, we always do that. We always do that. This is a part of our tradition. This is a part of our culture. So they say that we are going to follow them, follow the ways of our forefathers in Aqidah, in Amal, whether it is true or not. Whether the ways of our forefathers are correct or not. We don't care about whether they're correct or not. We're just going to follow them. Why? Because that's our tradition, that's our practice. Even though what Allah has commanded is different, we're not going to follow that. We're going to follow our traditions. Allah questions us. Awalaw? Meaning what? Are they still going to follow their forefathers? Walau, even if kana aba'uhum, their forefathers are la ya'qiluna shay'an, they do not understand anything. Are they going to continue to follow their forefathers even though their forefathers don't understand anything at all? Ya'qiluna is from the root letters Ain Qaf Lam. And aql, what is aql? Intellect. Aqala ya'qilu, to use one's intellect, to use logic, to be reasonable, to use the mind that Allah has given. And remember that aql is of two types. Right? What are the two types of aql? Aql of, first of all, idrak. What is idrak? To just perceive things on their surface, to just know what they are. That's it. And rushd, to go deeper and to take a lesson. Right? So are they going to continue their forefathers even though their forefathers do not understand shay'an, anything? Now does it mean that their forefathers or their ancestors, they didn't have aql? Which kind of aql is this? This aql is that of rushd. This aql is that of rushd. Meaning, they did not understand anything with regards to the matters of the deen, with regards to the matters of akhirah. They may be very intelligent, very smart with regards to the matters of their dunya. They may be very successful businessmen. They may be very successful people in their worldly affairs. But when it comes to deen, they didn't understand the deen. They didn't have the knowledge of the deen. So are they still going to follow them? وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, nor are they guided. Who does they refer to? Their forefathers. Meaning, are you still going to follow them even though they were not rightly guided? يَهْتَدُونَ is from the root letters hadaliya, hidayah. What does hidayah mean? Guidance. And ihtida, to obtain guidance. So even though their forefathers were not guided to the right way, now we see that following and obeying our parents, our leaders, is something that is, what is it? Mandatory upon us. Isn't it? وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, one of the things that we learned was that we must obey our parents. Similarly, following the amir, following the leader is something that is mandatory upon the followers. We have been told to do sam and ita', that we must listen and we must obey. But following our parents or following even the leaders is forbidden when there are two things, two situations. First of all, that there is no reasoning in what they command us to do. There is absolutely no logic in what they command us to do. What they're commanding does not make sense. For example, if a parent tells their child that they should jump in the fire or they should kill themselves, should the child obey the parent? No. Once there was a group of the companions and they went on an expedition. And the leader who was appointed for them, he commanded the companions to make a huge fire and to jump into that fire. Because he got very upset with them. And the companions, obviously, they didn't listen to him. And when they returned and they told the Prophet ﷺ about it, and this is just a gist of what he said, that if you had obeyed, then both you and him, all of you and him, would be in the hellfire. Why? Because the command does not make sense. The command is completely illogical. It is against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one situation in which we are not to follow our forefathers or our parents or our leaders. But remember that sometimes we think that what they're telling us to do is illogical, it doesn't make sense, whereas actually it does make sense. So what's the criteria? It should not be against the commands of Allah. That's the criteria. Because remember, لا يعقلون شيئا, that aql has to do with rushd, with hidayah. They don't understand any matter of deen. And secondly, the second situation in which we are not to follow our forefathers or our leaders is when they are not rightly guided. When they do not have the knowledge of the deen. And because they do not have the knowledge of the deen, if they're telling us something that is against the deen, we're not going to follow them. Now, it doesn't give you permission to become very rude to them, to disobey them with regards to every other matter, or not give any importance to them, or be harsh to them, or think that they don't have any sense and they don't know what they're talking about, and not respect them. No, this is not what it means. Our parents are our parents. If they tell us to do something which does not make sense, which is against the deen, yes, we're not going to follow it. But at the same time, we're not going to be rude to them. We have to respect them. We see that some people, they're very intelligent when it comes to the dunya. Very intelligent when it comes to the dunya. But when it comes to the deen, they have no knowledge about it. They have no knowledge about the deen. And if the children, if they learn about the deen, then what should they do? They should follow the deen and not the practices that have been prevalent in their culture or in their tradition or in their family. They should give priority to what? To the deen. They should follow the deen. And many times we see over here that what did they say? They said that we're going to follow our forefathers. Many times when it comes to the deen, we don't use our mind. We don't use the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And what do we say? We're just going to follow. We're just going to do what our parents have been doing. Do we dress in the same way that our forefathers did 15, 20, 30 years ago? 50 years ago? 100 years ago? No. Do we live in the same way? Do we eat the same type of food? No, we don't. So why is it that when it comes to the deen, we don't use the knowledge that Allah has given us and instead we rely completely on the ways and practices of our tradition and culture? Why? We don't live the same way, we don't dress the same way, we don't think the same way, we don't do the same things. When it comes to dunya, we change, we improve. But when it comes to deen, we don't improve. We don't give priority to that. So over here, people are being questioned that are you going to follow them even though they don't have any intellect and they're not rightly guided? Are you still going to follow them? You're not going to follow them. You shouldn't follow them. Next ayah. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and the example of those people who have disbelieved. The example of who? Of those people who have disbelieved. Which example? An example for what? An example of the manner in which they follow their forefathers. Because the previous ayah tells us that they do not look at the deen, but what do? They just blindly follow their forefathers. So the example of the manner in which they follow their forefathers is what? Is of كَمَثَلِ, like the example of الَّذِي يَنْعِقُ, the one who shouts. يَنْعِقُ is from the root letters Nun, Ain, Qaf. Nun, Ain, Qaf. Na'q or Na'iq. Nun, Ain, Qaf with a sukoon on the Ain or a kasra under the Ain. Na'q or Na'iq. Na'iq is used for screaming, shouting, yelling, crying. And the word is used in several ways. For example, the word Na'iq is used for shouting out at someone very loudly. Shouting out at someone very loudly. Similarly, the word is used for the cawing of a crow. When a crow caws very loudly and very harshly. Have you heard that? Probably not. But some people may have. Because once they start cawing, they're like so loud and so harsh And they continue to call. So this is also narq. Similarly, the word narq is also used for the yelling of the shepherd at his flock, at his herd from far. So just imagine a shepherd who is very far from his flock. What is he going to do? He's going to shout out at them. He's going to yell at them. And from this, the word narq is used for every loud shout or every loud scream. So the example of the disbelievers is like what? Is like the one who shouts. The one who shouts at who? The one who yells at who? The one who yells at bima, at that which. Ma is the one who is being called. The one who is being shouted at. The one who is being yelled at. Who is it? La yasma'u, does not hear, illa du'a'an, except a call, wa nida'a, or a cry. Who is this? Alladhi yan'iqu, the one who shouts out. And remember, yan'iqu is used for who? Shouting out at someone loud. In particular, it is used for a shepherd yelling at his flock, yelling at his herd. So the shepherd, who is he yelling at? Bima la yasma'u illa du'a'an wa nida'a. Ma over here refers to the animals, the flock, the herd. Why is the word ma used? Because ma, as opposed to man, is used for that which does not have aql, that which is ghayr aql. So the animals, they don't have aql. You say rude things to the cow, doesn't get it. You praise the cow, oh, you're so nice. Is he going to get it? No. It's ghayr aql. Right? So bima la yasma'u, something or those animals that do not hear. Yasma'u is from samr. What does samr mean? To hear. And over here, samr gives a meaning of understanding. It gives a meaning of understanding. So they do not hear illa du'a'an wa nida'a, except a call or a cry. The word du'a is from the root letters dal, ayn, waw. And du'a is used for a meaningful call. What is it? A meaningful call. A call that is meaningful. Meaning you're not just saying hey or oh, but you're saying, for example, bring this, or do this, or come here. This is what dua is. It's a meaningful call. And dua is also used for calling out to someone or something specific by taking their name. For example, you say, Maryam, can you do this for me? And also if you think of it, the dua that you make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you make it? Either with Rabbana, O our Lord, or you say, Allahumma, O Allah. So you take the name of Allah. You mention His name. So dua is to call out to someone or something. How? By taking their name. And it is also meaningful. It is not meaningless. And the word nida is from the root letters nun daliya. And nida can be used for a call that is meaningless. So just saying sounds like oh or hey or yo. I mean, what does that mean? So nida could be a call that is meaningless, and it is also used for a call that is general and not specific. Dua is specific and nida is general. Dua is specific and nida is general. So these animals, when they're yelled at by the shepherd, when they're shouted at by the shepherd, they don't comprehend anything except just a sound or a cry that is just, striking them, and they just know that they're being called. That's it. So if they're called specifically with a dua, for example, a particular animal is called, or a particular animal is taken, the animal doesn't know what he's being told. He doesn't know if the master is taking him to slaughter it, or if the shepherd is taking the animal to milk it, or to tie it, or to sell it, or to do whatever with it. The animal does not know. Similarly, when a nida is made, when the animals are shouted at, in the general sense, when all of them are called, do they know what the nida is? No. All they hear is just a shout or a cry. They have no idea of what that shout or cry means. They have no idea of what that shout or cry means. They just hear a sound. You go talk to a cow. Is it going to understand anything? No. Try talking to a goat, a sheep. Is it going to understand anything? No. But it's amazing how they respond. especially the shepherd. Sometimes, if you've seen some people when they have chickens, what they do is that they make this sound, and all the chickens just come running to them. They know it's food. Sometimes you go to a farm and they're trying to catch the chickens, and they'll run after them for hours, but they'll be unable to do so. And you just say, all the chickens will come, and you just grab it right there. So, the example of the disbelievers is the same. How? This example can be understood in two ways. That first of all, when the disbelievers, they listen to an admonition, when they listen to an advice, they are only like animals. How? That they just hear the sounds, but they don't comprehend what that sound means. They don't comprehend what that admonition means. If you look at it, every messenger, every prophet was a shepherd. And every prophet, every messenger, what did he do? He called the people. But the people, those people who disbelieved, what did they do? They didn't comprehend the admonition that was given to them, the advice that was given to them. So this is one way of understanding this example. Another way is that the disbelievers, they blindly follow their forefathers, without knowing, without comprehending what exactly the ways, the practices of their forefathers are taking them to. Just like the animals, they're just shouted, they're yelled at, and they follow. They have no idea if the master is taking them to kill them. They have no idea. They have no idea if the master is taking them to slaughter them, to milk them, to tie them, to lock them in, to sell them, to send them across miles and miles away. The animals have no idea. Similarly, these people, they follow their forefathers without knowing the consequences of where they're going, of where they're headed to. They don't use their reason. Which is why Allah says, Summun, they're ones who are deaf. Summun is a plural of Asam, one who is unable to hear. Bukmun, ones who are dumb, plural of Abkam, one who is unable to speak. Umyun, plural of A'ma, one who is unable to see. Fahum la yarqilun, so they do not understand, they do not comprehend. What does it mean? That these people, they're not deaf, dumb and blind in the physical sense, in the literal sense, but rather what it means is that they're incapable of listening to the truth, of comprehending the truth, of speaking it out and seeing it through. فَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ, so as a result they do not comprehend. What do they not comprehend? Any advice that is given to them, any logic that is presented to them, any command that is given to them. Because in the previous ayah, they were told, will you still follow your forefathers even if they don't understand anything and even if they're not rightly guided? What did the people do? What did the people say? Yes, we are going to. We are going to choose the ways of our forefathers. We know about so many disbelievers of Mecca. They saw the truth. They knew that the Prophet ﷺ was truthful. But what did they do? I cannot leave the way of my forefathers. So their way is the same as these animals who have no idea where they're headed to. If you look at the shout of the shepherd, it is yan'iqu first, and dua and nida. It is loud, it is clear, but still they don't get it. Still they don't hear it, still they don't comprehend it. Let's listen to these verses. So what have you learned from these verses? In many cultures, there are certain cultural practices or certain traditions which have absolutely no meaning. And sometimes they have come from cultures that are of disbelievers. But many times we continue to do them. Why? Because this is what our forefathers did. And if we go against them, we will not be able to face the rest of the family. And sometimes these practices, they include israf, a lot of wastage of money. Sometimes they include disobedience to Allah. But still people will do them. Allah questions us, are you still going to do it when A, it's illogical, it doesn't make sense to throw your money out like that, and secondly, it's against the way that Allah has told you of. Are you still going to do it? No, you're not going to do it. You shouldn't do it. Many times when it comes to traditions and practices, we tell our family that this is wrong, this is incorrect, but it's only a shout or a cry to them which they do not comprehend, which they do not accept. If you connect these verses with the previous ones that we studied about love, about connections, about relationships, we know that on the Day of Judgment, وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بِهِمُ الْأَسْبَابِ, all connections, all relationships will be cut off. So if today, because of the love that we have for our tradition, for our culture, for our practices, we are disobeying Allah, we're going against the commands of Allah, what use are they tomorrow? What use are they tomorrow? We should follow and we should give preference to the way of the Quran and the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so we have learned the lesson, alhamdulillah. Now what if you want to do something and your parents don't want you to do it because it is against the culture? Not against the deen, but it is against the culture. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What have you learned? Yes. So first of all, you talk to them. You try to make them understand. And what if they still don't understand? What if they still don't accept? You see, analyze that particular situation. Sometimes they're telling us to do that which may not be wrong. May not be wrong. It is a part of the tradition, it is a part of the culture, but it is not against the Quran and Sunnah. It's not. So in such a situation, even though you don't want to do it, what can you do? You can still do it. Why? Because if you go against them, then what's going to happen? You're going to lose your family in the dunya even. Because sometimes these cultural bonds and connections are very, very important. And sometimes if a person goes against the culture, then he's an outcast. Literally, he's an outcast. So it depends on the situation. If they're telling you to do something which is not wrong, which is okay, which is permissible, then do it. And if they're stopping you from something that is permissible, that is allowed for you to do it, but they're stopping you only because it contradicts the culture, then in that situation you can evaluate. That this thing which is permissible for me, is it a must on me to do it? Meaning there's no other way for me to do it? Sometimes there is a choice. For example, there is a situation of marriage. You want to marry a particular person, and what happens? Your parents, they say, no, because he doesn't belong to our family, you cannot marry him. And they want you to marry someone who is from your family. So what are you going to do? Oh, you're going against the deen, and that's it, I'm not going to listen to you. You have to evaluate the situation. Try talking to them. If they don't get it, then make dua to Allah. Make dua to Allah. May Allah open their hearts. And if they still stop you from marrying that particular person, then it's possible that even there's a person from the family which they stop you from marrying. I mean, you have to take the permission of your parents. Right? So evaluate the situation. Okay? And don't just say, whatever my parents say, because it's part of the culture, it's wrong. I'm not going to do it. No, sometimes those things are right. Sometimes those things are right. They are correct. Because in these situations, if you leave your family and you go marry a particular man because, he's not from the family and you like that particular person, you've lost your family and you never know what happens in the future. There are people who have lost their family on one side and the man whom they loved on the other side as well. If there is no contradiction between the command of Allah and the command of the parents, then evaluate the situation and do what is appropriate. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.